Angelina Jordan and the Power of Silence, why her softest notes speak the loudest. When people talk about Angelina Jordan, they often begin with the obvious. The barefoot performances. The deep, smoky tone. The maturity beyond her years. The viral moments that shocked audiences across Europe and America. But there is something even more fascinating happening beneath the surface of her music. Angelina Jordan understands silence. And in today's music industry, that may be her greatest weapon. From the very beginning, when she won Norway's Got Talent at just 8 years old, people were stunned not only by her vocal tone but by her pacing. She never rushed phrases. She allowed space between words. She let the music breathe. That kind of restraint is extremely rare in young performers. Most singers try to impress with power. They stretch notes. They increase volume. They add vocal runs. They compete for attention. Angelina does the opposite. She pulls back. When she later performed on America's Got Talent, The Champions, her rendition of Bohemian Rhapsody was not about technical acrobatics. It was about emotional weight. She slowed it down. She softened it. She transformed a rock anthem into something haunting and reflective. That is not a normal decision for a teenage singer on a global stage. It is a strategic artistic choice. Silence in music is not emptiness. In professional terms, it is called dynamic control and phrasing discipline. The pauses between lines create tension. The breath before a lyric creates anticipation. The softness in delivery forces the audience to lean in rather than sit back. Angelina intuitively understands this psychological effect. And that is what separates entertainers from interpreters. An entertainer performs a song. An interpreter translates a song. Angelina translates emotion. You can hear it clearly in her blues and jazz covers. She does not simply replicate the melody. She reshapes it. She bends timing slightly behind the beat, a technique often used in jazz phrasing. That subtle delay creates a feeling of longing, of reflection, of memory. That is advanced musical instinct. But here is the deeper layer most people overlook. Her use of silence mirrors her public image. Angelina is not constantly in the headlines. She does not flood social media with controversy. She is selective, measured, calm. In a world where visibility often equals relevance, she chooses composure over noise. That alignment between personality and artistry creates authenticity. Authenticity builds trust. And trust builds longevity. Another important factor is her tonal identity. Many singers develop power over time. Angelina developed texture. Her lower register carries a husky warmth that gives emotional gravity to simple lyrics. When she sings softly, it does not feel weak. It feels intentional. That distinction matters. Softness without control sounds fragile. Softness with control sounds powerful. Angelina's softness is controlled. And that control suggests careful vocal training and artistic awareness. It is not accidental. It is constructed through discipline, listening, and musical study. There is also a psychological element at play. Modern listeners are overwhelmed. Loud production. Heavy beats. Constant stimulation. When Angelina performs stripped-down arrangements with minimal instrumentation, it offers contrast. And contrast creates memorability. She creates space in a crowded industry. And space invites emotional connection. Now consider the long-term implications. Artists who rely only on vocal power often face diminishing returns. Audiences become accustomed to high intensity. But artists who master subtlety can evolve across decades. As voices mature, depth increases. Emotional nuance strengthens. Angelina's foundation is built on nuance. That means she is structurally positioned for longevity rather than short-term viral spikes. There is also symbolism in her barefoot performances. While some initially viewed it as a childlike quirk, it gradually became a statement of vulnerability. No barrier. No armor. Just voice and emotion. Combined with her use of silence, that vulnerability forms a cohesive artistic brand. Minimalism. Emotional depth. Controlled intensity. These are not random traits. They are components of a coherent artistic identity. So what does this mean for her future? If she continues developing original material that preserves this dynamic restraint, rather than chasing loud, commercial production, she could carve out a unique lane in modern music. A lane built on emotional intelligence rather than algorithmic trends. But that path requires patience. It requires resisting pressure. It requires protecting silence in an industry that rewards noise. Angelina Jordan has already demonstrated that she is willing to move differently. And sometimes, moving differently is the very thing that defines a legacy. In the end, the loudest artists are not always the ones remembered. Sometimes, it is the ones who understood when not to sing. And Angelina Jordan may be one of them. Because here is where the conversation becomes more complex. Silence is powerful, but it is also risky. As Angelina Jordan moves further into adulthood, the industry expectations shift. When she was a child prodigy, the narrative protected her. Audiences were amazed by the contrast between age and depth. The story amplified the impact. But adulthood removes that contrast. Now the evaluation becomes stricter. The world no longer asks, how is she this good at her age? Instead, it asks, how does she compare to established artists? That is a completely different standard. This is the critical transition phase that has defined, and sometimes ended, the careers of many young talents. Once the novelty fades, only artistry remains. And artistry must evolve. When Angelina signed with Republic Records, it signaled institutional confidence. Republic Records is known for managing artists who dominate streaming platforms and global charts. But their ecosystem is highly competitive. To sustain momentum, an artist must develop a clear sonic identity that differentiates them within a saturated market. So the question becomes, what lane does Angelina fully claim? Her foundation is rooted in jazz and blues phrasing, but the mainstream music economy is currently driven by genre fusion, pop blended with R&B, electronic elements, or alternative production textures. If she leans too far into commercial pop, she risks diluting her uniqueness. If she stays exclusively traditional, she risks limiting reach. The solution is not compromise. The solution is integration. Imagine original material that preserves her slow-burn vocal delivery, but introduces subtle contemporary production layers. Minimal percussion. Atmospheric instrumentation. Cinematic arrangements. Not loud, but modern. That balance could allow her to retain emotional authenticity while expanding audience scale. Another dimension that cannot be ignored is psychological endurance. Growing up in public view creates invisible pressure. Every release is compared to childhood performances. Every vocal change is scrutinized. And fans often resist evolution because they are attached to nostalgia. For Angelina, vocal maturation means tonal shifts. Lower register expansion. Possibly less of the childlike surprise effect. But maturation, if embraced, adds authority. Authority is what transforms a singer into an artist. There is also branding architecture to consider. Angelina's barefoot symbolism, minimal styling, and emotionally rich ballads created a cohesive early identity. As she steps into adulthood, that symbolism may evolve. The core should remain vulnerability, but vulnerability expressed through adult storytelling rather than youthful mystique. The next major test will be a defining original project. Not just a single. Not just a cover. A body of work that articulates who she is now, and not who she was. Albums create narrative cohesion. They reveal thematic direction. They show whether an artist can sustain emotional storytelling across multiple tracks. That is where long-term credibility is built. And here is the strategic advantage she possesses: patience. Angelina has never appeared rushed. Her career progression has been deliberate. That pacing, if maintained, could shield her from burnout, a common fate among early prodigies. The industry often accelerates young talents into overexposure. Oversaturation reduces mystique. Reduced mystique weakens cultural impact. Angelina's restraint preserves intrigue. Intrigue sustains attention. Attention, when properly managed, sustains career longevity. There is also a cross-generational component in her favor. Older audiences appreciate her jazz sensibilities. Younger audiences connect to her uniqueness and authenticity. Bridging those demographics is rare. If her team strategically leveraged live performances, intimate venues, orchestral collaborations, carefully curated televised appearances, she can reinforce artistic seriousness rather than algorithm dependency. Ultimately, the narrative arc is shifting. The first chapter was astonishment. The second chapter was validation. The third chapter, the one unfolding now, is definition. Definition determines legacy. Will she be remembered as a remarkable child prodigy? Or as a mature artist who successfully transitioned into lasting relevance? That outcome depends less on viral moments and more on artistic conviction. Angelina Jordan has already demonstrated control over silence. The next step is demonstrating control over identity. And if she manages that transition with the same composure she has shown so far, the story will not be about what she achieved as a child. It will be about what she builds as a woman. For Angelina Jordan, the stakes are no longer about proving she can sing. That was settled years ago when she won Norway's Got Talent and later captivated global audiences on America's Got Talent, The Champions. Now the conversation is about longevity. And longevity requires navigating risk. Risk number 1, the child prodigy ceiling. History shows that many child stars struggle to transition into respected adult artists. Audiences often freeze them in time. Nostalgia becomes both an asset and a limitation. If Angelina is continually framed as the barefoot little girl with a deep voice, it restricts her growth. The solution is narrative repositioning. Strategic interviews, original music releases, and mature thematic storytelling must consistently reinforce her evolution. She cannot rely on childhood highlights as the foundation of her identity moving forward. Risk number 2, over-commercialization. Being signed to Republic Records provides access to elite production networks. But large labels often operate on performance metrics, streaming numbers, algorithm placement, radio traction. If pressured into chasing mainstream pop trends that dilute her jazz blues core, she risks losing the very differentiation that makes her compelling. The counter-strategy is controlled collaboration. She must work with producers who understand restraint and emotional nuance rather than formula-driven hooks. Risk number 3, underexposure. Ironically, moving too slowly can also create stagnation. Angelina's brand has been built on patience and mystique. That is powerful. But extended silence between major releases can weaken momentum in a fast-moving digital ecosystem. The balance is measured visibility, acoustic sessions, intimate live performances. Behind-the-scenes creative glimpses, enough to sustain audience connection without oversaturation. Risk number 4, vocal transition mismanagement. As artists mature, vocal timbre shifts. Range can expand in some areas and contract in others. Angelina's lower register has grown richer over time, but expectations tied to her earlier tone may create comparison pressure. The key is repertoire adaptation. Song selection must align with her evolving vocal architecture. Trying to recreate childhood tonal qualities could strain authenticity. Embracing the matured voice strengthens credibility. Risk number 5, psychological fatigue. Growing up under public scrutiny introduces invisible stressors. Every release invites comparison to viral milestones. Every stylistic shift invites critique. Sustained performance careers require emotional resilience frameworks, strong management, private creative spaces, and strategic downtime. Protecting mental equilibrium is not optional, it is structural to career longevity. Now let's shift from risk to opportunity. Each of these vulnerabilities also contains potential advantage. The child prodigy narrative, if reframed correctly, becomes a story of evolution rather than nostalgia. Over-commercialization pressure can push her to sharpen artistic boundaries. Underexposure can maintain mystique. Vocal maturation can add authority. Psychological challenges can deepen songwriting authenticity. The difference between artists who fade and artists who endure is strategic awareness. Angelina's greatest competitive advantage is that her foundation is not built on trend cycles. It is built on emotional interpretation. Emotional interpretation ages well. It adapts. It strengthens with lived experience. Consider how legendary vocalists built careers across decades. They evolved their themes as their lives evolved. They did not compete with youth, they matured into authority. Angelina's tonal depth positions her naturally toward that trajectory, if decisions align with long-term thinking rather than short-term metrics. Another strategic lever is live performance curation. Instead of pursuing purely commercial tours, selective high-quality venues, orchestral collaborations, jazz festivals, acoustic showcases, reinforce artistic seriousness. Artistic seriousness compounds over time. It attracts critical respect in addition to fan loyalty. Original music will ultimately determine the trajectory. Covers established interpretation. Originals will establish identity. If her songwriting explores themes like transition, isolation within fame, vulnerability, and personal growth, she can reposition from prodigy to storyteller. And storytelling builds legacy. The industry is unpredictable. Algorithms shift. Genres rotate. Trends expire. But emotional authenticity retains value across cycles. Angelina Jordan does not need reinvention. She needs refinement. Refinement of image. Refinement of sound. Refinement of narrative. If she manages these risks with discipline and patience, the story will not be about whether she survived early fame. It will be about how she transformed it into permanence. The next phase will not be defined by applause. It will be defined by strategic decisions, because once we understand the risks, the next logical step is execution. Talent without strategic execution fades. Talent with strategic execution compounds. So what would intelligent execution look like for Angelina Jordan at this stage? First, sequencing matters. Before releasing a full studio album, the smartest move would be a carefully positioned lead single. Not a loud commercial pivot. Not a dramatic reinvention. But a statement piece. A song that clearly signals maturity. Something original, emotionally layered, and vocally restrained, yet undeniably current in production texture. The goal of that single would not be immediate chart domination. The goal would be repositioning perception. The messaging around it would subtly shift the narrative from former child prodigy to emerging adult artist. Interviews would focus on songwriting involvement, creative direction, and lived experiences rather than childhood milestones. Language shapes perception. Perception shapes market positioning. Second, visual strategy must align with sonic direction. If the music is intimate and atmospheric, the visuals must avoid excess. Cinematic lighting. Minimalist styling. Mature color palettes. Controlled camera work. No overproduced spectacle. The visual tone should communicate composure and intentionality. Consistency across music video aesthetics, live sessions, and promotional imagery builds brand coherence. Coherence builds memorability. Third, performance placement must be selective. Instead of chasing every televised opportunity, Angelina should prioritize stages that reinforce artistry. Intimate acoustic sets. Orchestral collaborations. Carefully curated live showcases. Each appearance must strengthen the perception of seriousness. This is positioning psychology. Audiences subconsciously categorize artists based on context. Serious venues create serious perception. Fourth, release pacing must balance visibility and mystique. Too many releases in a short period can dilute anticipation. Too few can reduce engagement momentum. A strategic rollout could look like this: lead single, followed by a live acoustic version weeks later, then a behind-the-scenes creative documentary short, then a second single that reveals a different emotional texture. Each step builds narrative progression. Narrative progression sustains attention longer than isolated content drops. Fifth, collaboration must be intentional. A carefully chosen duet with an established but artistically respected vocalist could accelerate adult positioning. Not a trending pop influencer, but someone aligned with emotional depth. The collaboration must feel organic, not transactional. Collaborations communicate association. Association influences perception. Sixth, audience segmentation should be acknowledged. Angelina's fan base spans multiple age groups. Younger listeners may engage more digitally. Older listeners may value live instrumentation and physical formats. A rollout strategy that includes intimate vinyl releases, stripped-down studio sessions, and digital exclusives could bridge those demographics effectively. Strategic inclusivity strengthens longevity. Now let's discuss the most critical variable: creative authorship. If Angelina increases her visible involvement in songwriting and conceptual direction, credibility expands. Even partial songwriting credits shift narrative weight. She transitions from performer to creator. Creator status multiplies artistic authority. And authority anchors legacy. Finally, timing is everything. Releasing during a crowded pop cycle dominated by high-energy trends could overshadow her subtlety. Selecting a quieter cultural window, where audiences are receptive to reflective music, could maximize impact. Market awareness is not selling out. It is strategic intelligence. The overarching principle is simple: controlled evolution, no dramatic reinvention. No abandonment of core identity. No reactionary trend chasing. Instead, gradual maturity, clear narrative repositioning, and artistic consistency. Angelina Jordan does not need louder production. She needs sharper definition. Because in a noisy industry, clarity is competitive advantage. If this next phase is handled with patience and precision, the conversation will shift permanently, not remember when she was 8. But this is the artist she has become. And also, if you enjoy this video, please subscribe and comment for more videos, and please share the video. Thanks for watching. See you in another next video. Peace out.